Okay. So, have you ever been watching a movie, a horror movie maybe, and you find yourself thinking, wait, is the monster kinda hot? It's a bizarre question, I know, but it's one we kinda have to ask right now, because it really feels like Hollywood is just terrified of casting anyone who doesn't look like they just walked off a fashion runway.
All right, let's just dive right in with a perfect, and I mean perfect, example. So Guillermo del Toro, right? He's adapting Frankenstein for Netflix, and I was so pumped to see his version of this iconic, unsettling monster. So can someone, anyone, please explain to me why he cast Jacob Elordi? We're talking about a 6'5" model with a jawline that could slice a diamond. I mean, since when did Frankenstein's monster need to be a Calvin Klein model? When did we decide that this super tragic, grotesque figure had to be, well, gorgeous? And that right there, that's the whole thing in a nutshell. This is what we're talking about today. Hollywood has a serious, serious hot people problem. And look, it's not just about having good-looking leads. No. This is something bigger. It feels like a rule almost, that every single person you see on screen, even the monsters, has to fit into this one single, perfectly symmetrical, super polished beauty template.
So, let's dig into this Hollywood's strange new look. How did we get here? How did our screens get filled up with faces that all kind of look the same? And more importantly, what's it actually doing to the stories we watch?
And this is a really important distinction to make. The problem isn't just that they're avoiding unattractive people. No, the real problem is that they're avoiding interesting people. Faces with some texture, some personality, a feature that isn't perfectly symmetrical. Those faces, they get pushed to the side, maybe a quirky friend role. It's why movies from, say, before the 2010s just felt more real. The people on screen looked like, well, people.
All right, let's get into the evidence. I'm calling this a case of carbon copies. Because this pattern, it is not subtle, and I'm telling you, once you see it, you will never, ever be able to unsee it.
Let's start with maybe the most famous aunt in all of fiction, Aunt May, from Spider-Man, of course. Back in 2002, we had Rosemary Harris. She looked exactly how you'd picture a sweet, kind, elderly aunt. Now, fast forward to 2017. Who do we have? The incredibly stunning Marissa Tomei. Now, this isn't about what's in the comics. The point is the direction of the change. It only goes one way, towards being conventionally hot. You just never see that casting happen in reverse. No way.
And it's not just Aunt May. It happened to Peter Parker himself. Think about it. Tobey Maguire in 2002 was perfect. He was that nerdy, kind of awkward kid who you totally believed could get bitten by a spider. Andrew Garfield in 2012, he was maybe a little too cool already, with that skater vibe. But then we get to 2017, and Tom Holland. He's great. He's charming, but he's also a super handsome, athletic guy. He looks like he could be a superhero before the spider bite. The relatable nerd is just gone, replaced by a total heartthrob.
And this whole thing, it actually starts to ruin the stories themselves. Take the rom-com Anyone But You. The two leads are just so ridiculously good-looking that it's actually hard to buy into their messy, relatable problems. You're supposed to see yourself in rom-coms, right? This just felt like watching two supermodels pretend to be normal. Or what about book adaptations? Margot Robbie gets cast as Catherine Earnshaw from Wuthering Heights, a character the book goes out of its way to say is not conventionally pretty. And then there's Hitman. They want us to believe Glenn Powell, a guy who looks like he was chiseled by the gods, is a dorky loser. Their big idea? Put glasses on him. That's it. It completely shatters the illusion.
And here's the real kicker. When Hollywood actually needs a character who looks unconventional, what's their move? Do they cast someone who fits the part? Nope. Look at Colin Farrell as the Penguin in the Batman. They take this incredibly handsome dude and spend like 6 hours a day burying him in prosthetics until you can't even recognize him. They would literally rather do that, spend all that time, all that money, than just cast a fantastic actor who might naturally look a little more unconventional. It's like being hot is the mandatory starting point for every single role, no exceptions. So, the big question is, how did we get here? How did this one single standardized face become the absolute default? Let's trace it back. Let's look at the cultural moments that completely changed how we think about beauty. It all started kind of subtly. Remember that totally ridiculous song, #selfie? Yeah, it sounds goofy now, but it was a huge moment. It made obsessing over our own faces totally normal. Then, the Kardashians happened, and with their super edited photos, they basically invented a new, totally unattainable standard of beauty. And that led directly to Facetune. Suddenly, everyone could edit their photos to look like that, and felt like they had to.
The line between what was real and what was edited just, poof, vanished.
And all of that created what we now call the Instagram face. So let's break down what that even means. It's this impossible, perfectly symmetrical, digitally perfected look. You know the features. The little ski-slope nose, the overfilled lips, the sharp jawline you get from removing buccal fat, that poreless, flawless skin. Honestly, it's a face that looks like an AI made it. And it didn't just stay online. It took over Hollywood fast.
I mean, just think about how wild that shift was. I vividly remember the whole Kylie Jenner lip challenge, where people were literally making fun of her look. And somehow we went from making it a joke, to that exact same look becoming the beauty standard that millions of people are now chasing. It's just proof that if you see something enough times, what used to feel extreme starts to feel totally normal.
So, okay, what happens when you take this super modern, digitally perfected face and you drop it into a movie set in like the 1800s? Well, the whole illusion just shatters. It's completely ruined.
And this leads to a great term I've heard, the iPhone face. It's the perfect way to describe an actor who looks so aggressively modern, with the fillers, the Botox, the whole vibe, that they just yank you right out of a historical movie. It's like, imagine seeing an influencer in a bonnet churning butter. No matter how great the costume is, they still look like they're about to post a Get Ready With Me from the 17th century. That's the iPhone face, and it absolutely kills the magic of period dramas.
And once you start looking for it, you see these weird anachronisms everywhere. In the show 1923, you've got an actress with really obvious lip fillers. In American Horror Story, which was set in the 1700s, a character looks straight up like a modern influencer. That Netflix version of Persuasion, it was full of faces that felt way too 2022 for 19th century England. And the new House of Guinness cast got called out for looking more like book talk cosplayers than historical figures. Trust me, the audience always notices this stuff.
And it's not always super obvious things either. Even subtle changes can be really jarring. Take the last season of Stranger Things. So many people were distracted by Millie Bobby Brown's lip flip. It's this little Botox thing that changes how your top lip rests. And seeing this face that we all loved, this unique face we've watched grow up on screen, suddenly start to morph into that same standard, it wasn't just distracting. Honestly, it was kind of heartbreaking. It just shows you the insane pressure these actors are facing.
So look, it is so easy to just point the finger at Hollywood, to blame the studios, the casting directors, all of them. But, and this is the really uncomfortable part, what if they're just responding to something? What if they're responding to us?
I mean, just go look at the comments section on any post. Millie Bobby Brown posts a picture, and it's flooded with, "She looks 40, what happened to her face?" The incredibly talented Florence Pugh gets relentlessly body-shamed because she doesn't fit some impossible mold. And there was a whole viral trend, to call Zendaya mid. It's just this level of pure viciousness, treating actual people like they're just products up for review.
And make no mistake, Hollywood sees this. They see all of it. They see the cruelty. They see how fast the audience will absolutely rip someone to shreds for daring to look human.
And if you want the single most insane example of how deep this goes, here it is. This is a real comment from someone online. They said they couldn't finish watching Legally Blonde, a classic. Why? Not the story, not the acting, but because Reese Witherspoon's teeth, back in 2001, were not perfectly, insanely, blindingly white. Her normal, human teeth were considered such a major flaw that it made the movie unwatchable for them. Think about that.
So here's the bottom line. We're in the age of TikTok marketing. Virality is everything. Studios are chopping up their movies into little clips, desperate to go viral. So put yourself in their shoes. Why would you ever take a risk? Why would you cast someone with a normal, interesting face, knowing full well that the very people you need to buy tickets might just destroy that person online for not looking perfect? From a cold, hard business standpoint, it's just safer to cast the person who already looks like a walking Instagram filter.
Which brings us to a final, pretty tough question. We all know that movies are at their best when the people in them feel real. But if our culture online keeps punishing every tiny deviation from digital perfection, if we start treating normal teeth or a unique nose like it's a flaw, then can we really turn around and demand to see human authenticity on screen? It kind of feels like we're getting exactly the movies we're asking for,